I forgot to switch back to the starting screen, whatever the fuck. So you're just gonna watch the stream starting out with the beautiful censorious gaze. Censorious? Sensual? Censorious means he wants stuff going. I'm sorry. I forgot to hit go live again. Hello everyone, my name is Marito. I'm a fucking idiot. Happy freedom, everybody. It's the fucking 4th of July. I'm doubled. Oh shit, that's bad. I'm telling you, nothing but the finest here. Nothing but the finest. Am I even on the correct mic? Oh, God. Okay, I'm using the correct mic. I don't know why I keep maxing out. Try to lower that. Nothing but the finest. Don't worry, I haven't gotten any better at hosting these things. Yeah, you're going to be looking at Kyle Drake's beautiful gaze because I totally spaced on everything. So I had everything to go. I had everything ready to go, as the usual. And then I goddamn didn't hit go live on the streaming button. And on the streaming dashboard. So that was great. That was fantastic. I actually felt my face get hot there. I'm sorry. And I had to turn off the air conditioner because, background noise and what have you. But as I was saying, I had to do some last minute rearranging because YouTube chat is even worse. I'm sorry. I'm very, very scattershot today. But that's okay because today is a day of not giving a shit. It is a day of freedom. I feel like I should have had the national anthem or something ready to go, but I do not. I'm sorry. But there are going to be fireworks. There are, in fact, going to be fireworks. Because I'm going to be not actually playing something. In fact, I'll explain that. We're going to be doing a little creative stream. We're going to be doing something that I didn't get the chance to do back when I was streaming regularly. I was too busy playing games that I had no interest in playing, to be perfectly honest. I kind of got tired of the whole streaming thing. Felt like I wasn't really, putting my all into it. Oh boy, here comes Saturday while I'm having, giant depressive episode. And playing fucking Flash games or some shit. I don't feel like it. I didn't feel like it, so I just stopped, but I have an idea this time. So we're all good. We are all good. And, let's just say it's a little bit of a throwback. It's fitting that people from the Cities are in the chat because, you might remember a little game called Quake. Anybody? In fact, I might as well just get right into that because, like I said, I had to rearrange my entire screen to get this going. Play this on stream, coward. I'm scared to know what this is, but let's do it. After I figure out the disaster that is the feedback, which is weird because there shouldn't be any feedback. Oh, I know where there's feedback. I had the stream open in another tab. Okay. Let's hope there's not a double echo this time. I'm going to turn my desktop audio back on. I think we've gotten technical problems sorted. So let's go to my screen, and I'll play whatever Nicole wants me to play. Yeah, you can see my glorious screen right here, kind of half-cropped, kind of iffy, whatever it is. What is this, Borb? Okay, I think it's over. Like I said, I can't actually hear anything. I can't actually hear anything. 'Cause, I have my quote-unquote desktop audio. Actually, it's a line-out cable going from the headphone jack on my computer to a big stereo in my room. That stereo is currently off, and I could have worn headphones, but I didn't feel like wearing headphones. So it's all right. You guys will get to hear it. It'd be cool to get wet in here. He seems like a cool dude. A little bit of a crackhead, but he seems all right. And Yoshi, about the stream latency, that was actually not originally the case. Apparently, people were kind of iffy about chatting with me because, and I'll actually show you here on the streaming dashboard. I'm streaming here. You can actually see, and I know this is massively zoomed in. I'll show you. Watch. If I zoom this back out, it's going to make the live chat go funny. It's just the way I have Vivaldi up. I don't know. But anyway, but you could see here that I've got this stream latency thing. Normal latency is like maybe fucking 45 seconds. Low latency is still a good 15 to 20 seconds. So things are still lagging behind, and people were apparently being put off chatting with me because of it. So I just set it to ultra low. Whatever. It's fine. And you can see that it does not support closed captions, so I'm sorry to all the deaf people. You're just going to have to deal, okay? Anyway, so let's actually get into, and we actually saw, what's his name? Newhouse. I actually saw Newhouse in the chat. I don't know if he's still here or not, but he is sort of the man of the hour because I actually was not planning on doing anything Quake-related ever again. I mean, I kind of was, but let's just say I didn't leave the scene on the best terms, I guess you could call it. It was a very, very miserable time. So I just I gave up. Oh, hi, Newhouse. So I just kind of gave up on all that, but I did want to make another level at some point. And Newhouse, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, pops into my DMs and he's like, all right, I'm finishing up. I don't know what the whole project's called, but he's been working on this thing for a couple years now called, like I said, I don't know the full name of it, but we've been colloquially referring to it as the Blue episode. And that's, it's I guess also it's like a bunch of episodes or something like that, each with a different theme. But he was like, do you want to make a level for this? And I was like, that actually sounds kind of neat. You know, it's a nice way to cap off my total lack of legacy as that guy who kind of participated in a few jams. Dark Saga, that's what that's called. That's true. All right. Yeah, you guys can chat in either IRC or the stream chat. It doesn't really matter. Like I said, I only pulled up IRC because it was eating my messages. So Dark Saga is what it's called, and the Blue episode is the first episode. But he pops up and he's like, do you want to make a level for it? One of the secret levels, because that's kind of a thing with Quake, is that there's always like one or two. In the base game, it's just one. But I think he's planning to have multiple secret levels, which are kind of out of the way and can be a little bit different. Right. So that's what we're sort of going to be doing in this stream. And I figured it'd just be kind of neat to explain the process and show you guys what I was thinking about with this level, kind of get back into it, build some stuff, and also maybe you guys can have, some input on it, if you see fit. So let me try to clear out some of this nonsense a little bit. And I will minimize this, and we'll get right back into what I was doing with the game. And this is a much smaller window than I normally have to work with, so I kind of had to rearrange things, but that's okay. It should still be all right. So I kind of came up with this concept for this level, kind of as because a big part of the whole Dark Saga thing is it's all based on dreams and kind of more abstract stuff. And I kind of got this, I don't know how to describe it. I guess I'll just start with the big gameplay concept. In fact, let me just drop into a game here, which, by the way, I normally have multiple engines in Trench Room right here. I only have the one. Because apparently Windquake, which is what I normally like to test this in, OBS cannot handle it in any capacity. It literally makes the desktop drop out altogether. Like, Any of this that you're seeing would not be here if I opened Wind Quake. I don't understand it, and it pisses me off. So we're just going to have to deal with the slightly less chunky, just DirectX Mark V thing. So, sort of the concept for this level, and I'll explain what you're seeing in a moment, but sort of the concept for this level was a lot of Quake players, they'll immediately try to spring for the end. If you give them the end, they will spring for the end. It's just sort of the way. And no, it doesn't have anything to do with OBS zooming in. It was literally that if I tried to open Wind Quake, it would just disappear. But most players will try to spring for the end. So I got to thinking, what if we just gave them the end, but with a twist? And that twist being, you're not prepared for the end. And no, I'm not going to zoom it in because I want you to see my level editor. I'm not switching between scenes. I want to just do this live. So yeah, you're going to have to deal with a slightly less cropped in picture. I promise you'll survive. Anyway, so you give the player, the choice of going immediately to the end, which isn't currently built yet. But the thing is, they're not prepared for the end. The end is a fucking slaughterhouse. But if they're a little bit more patient and they go through the level normally, they'll slowly, like you can see, I only have the shotgun right now. That's sort of the thing. They don't start with any of their weapons. I don't know if they'll even have armor. So they just kind of start out, and they're not prepared for it. And they'll just get fucked. But if they're a little bit more patient and they get through the level, they'll slowly gain their weapons back through a series of these gauntlet kind of challenges. And then they'll actually get to the end proper, but this time they'll have their weapons. They'll also be, they'll potentially have a quad, a pent, just able to blow through it, basically. And it's sort of your reward for actually being patient and playing through the level as intended. Or you can try to find some way to survive. I wouldn't be surprised. People in the Quake scene are kind of nuts. Maybe there will be a way to survive it. Again, I haven't built it yet. So let's go back through what I was showing in the editor and actually show off what I was doing. Because this is actually not the first time I tried to build this level. At first, I just tried to jump in with blue textures, and it was just a mess. It was just a fucking disaster. What can you say, Borb? It's freedom. You cannot... Freedom does not wait. Freedom just happens. So, I was really stuck. I was really stuck for a long time, and I think it came down to the 26th of the last month or so, around there, that Newhouse was just like, all right, listen, it doesn't matter what you build. Just get something, just play with shapes, just make it neat gameplay concepts. That's what you do. I'll actually explain the stream name in a moment, and I'll explain the start map thing that you mentioned in a moment. So that gave me this idea of this first area, because I cannot visualize anything without an intro. I can't start a story without an intro. I cannot visualize anything without intros, basically, which has been a massive kind of pain in the ass, but I can't really fight that. That's just the way I work. So the moment he was like shapes, I was like, puzzle box, genius. So I started this out, and he was also talking about, do you want to do stuff with the void, all black, no lighting whatsoever. So I was like, what? Have this puzzle box thing in a void, genius. And actually, let me get my door real quick to make sure no one barges in. So it starts out in this kind of void area, and after that, I could just immediately visualize what came next. So you've got this void, and the thing that I like about this black texture, and I use this a lot in the map, is that it's black. And the way that light maps work in the game, which I'll explain the whole behind-the-scenes development process in a moment. But the whole thing about the black texture is it's black. And light maps are, they multiply the actual brightness values in the albedo, the texture. So if you multiply, obviously, black is 0. If you multiply anything by 0, you're going to get 0. So it doesn't matter what lights you have in this room, it's just going to be black. So let me actually load the game back up, and I'll show you how this all kind of worked. So as you can see, I have all of these lights, the lights that were in the level behind this puzzle box area. They light up the actual puzzle box itself, obviously, because there's, something to multiply there. But the black will always be black. And in fact, if I turn on light maps, you can see that there is light shining on this texture. But, you know, like I said, anything times 0 is 0, so it just stays black. And then I figured, what a perfect way to start at a level. You just see this little, you know, it's a void, and then you just see this. And it's sort of like like we were talking about with the whole dream kind of thing. I think Newhouse, either me or Newhouse, I don't remember, we were sort of riffing on the concept of revisiting older map concepts. You know, he's done some of that for his jams and his speed maps, and I've done that with the start area right here that I was like, well, that would make perfect sense, wouldn't it? You know, you kind of wake up in this dream sort of area, you see this one thing, you go towards the light, and it's like, oh, Quake, you know. And this would also be the perfect way to sort of introduce the concept of, well, you know, most people would go to, you know, if you've been playing Quake, you probably go towards the hard hallway. So you go towards the hard hallway, and then you know, you say, well, of course it's wise, of course I can take this on. You hop up here, and you go through this teleporter. There's nothing in this teleporter right now. And you get your ass handed to you. So, you know, that's the whole concept of it, is you got to be a little bit more humble than that. And you got to go through the normal, the pleb hallway in order to actually get up into the level proper. So let's just play through the level of what I've got right now. And I've already got some stuff I wanted to change here. So I'll explain some of that as we go along. Actually, what am I? This is on normal. I'm going to go on hard real quick. My bad. Yeah, of course I have keybinds for all this stuff. I have a keybind for light maps. I have a keybind for R speeds. I have a keybind for hiding the weapon model. And then 3 for starting on easy, normal, or hard, in case I, you know, need to test stuff in the level. So then you go into this little elevator right here. You come up into this area. By the way, let me know if the volume is weird, because like I said, I didn't check any levels or anything before I started this. And there we go. That's roughly what I've got so far. So my concept for it was sort of that this happens in stages. So you go through this area, and I'm always a big fan of these drops that, you know, even if you do a jump, you can't get hurt. So I guarantee you there's someone going to be scared and they're like, oh, I have to go back down. No, just hop down. It doesn't matter. Just saves you some time. Anyway, so my sort of concept for this was, because of course you're regaining your weapons back, this is a nice way to segment levels out into these sections. And that's sort of the thing that I kind of like about, and you could see this in some of my other levels. Like I have the drop on here, I think. I sort of like to segment stuff into these smaller sections that, when strung together, kind of provide the flow of the level. That also gives you a nice, convenient, like, cool-off point before you move on to the next section, so on and so forth. So this section, of course, you come up here, and then you have this shotgun hanging out in the window right here. And of course, you're like, well, let me go up to that. And of course, lighting is a huge part of this level. A Newhouse, like we were already talking about the void stuff, but Newhouse also was like, you know, the whole thing about the Dark Saga is that it's very dark, obviously. It's a given. But no, there's a lot of shadows, and shadows are sort of used to their fullest potential here. And normally, you know, because I'm using Eric W tools, so of course I have the ability to, like, if I wanted to have the lighting bounce, I can do that. or if I wanted to say have ambient occlusion, which is actually kind of a neat thing. I do like it. I just don't really see a need for it here. But basically, if you look in the corner of a room, especially if there's light, you'll actually notice that there's the corner is actually slightly darker than the rest of the room, and that's because even the walls around it, it'll be darker than that, and it's ambient occlusion, So dirt mapping, actually, it's neat. It simulates that. That's what that's called. It simulates it in the light map rather than ambient occlusion being, something with screen space or sort of the more real-time ways that we see it done now. This bakes it into the light map, and it's really neat, don't get me wrong. I just didn't really see much of a need for it in this level. I sort of went with a very minimalist kind of lighting setup where there's a lot more empty space that is totally blacked out, and things are just kind of implied in the darkness. Okay, cool. But so you have this darkness up here. You have the window with the shotgun sort of naturally leading the player's eye after they clear out this area. You come in here, obviously. There's actually, I've been kind of hedging on this. Normally there's in like easy and, here, let me turn on no target. In the lower difficulties, there's actually a spike shooter there that I don't know if it really fits. So I might get rid of that, but in hard there's a fiend there. I'll always show you guys it before I get rid of it. I don't know, it was just something I was playing with, but there's a fiend there. You come in here, and then you have this area, which I kind of quarter-assed this, I'm not gonna lie. The one thing that I do like about this area, though, and let me go back through and play it, is I was thinking, let's have an optional area for each area. So, of course, this one's a whole lot smaller than what some of the later areas will be. Oops. And yeah, I was going to have this just be a two-way elevator, but I couldn't make that work for whatever reason. So I just instead threw a teleporter under there. Whoops. That will kill me. Let's not do that. Anyway. But you blow through this area. Whoops. I test in all the difficulties. I normally play on hard, yeah. But I have to test on all the difficulties, trying to sort of change things about, really. Not just have it be, the same level, but, the enemies will do more damage, for example. Or, I don't even know what the differences are between the difficulties. But, I didn't want it to just be that kind of, that thing. I like to change the level per difficulty, so some of these enemies will be switched out. But the one thing that I really like is, I was thinking, well, how can I fit an extra optional area into this section? And so what I was thinking was, if you keep following these stairs up, which is all dark, so I assume some people are just going to kind of skip it. They don't even know there's something up there. But if you go up these stairs, this is kind of a neat idea I had. Oh, there goes Jake. This is sort of the one thing, like I was playing with the whole void and darkness concept. All these shootable buttons that, because Quake has full bright pixels, will only appear in the dark. So that's probably going to be a little bit of an issue if someone tries to play this in GL Quake, but I just don't see that being a likelihood. Anybody who's still bothering to play Quake, in a software engine will probably be using Mark V, like I use Mark V. But you shoot all these buttons, and actually the kind of neat thing is if I go back into the editor and show you, they're actually trains. They're actually trains that are textured black that kind of move around this area and block these buttons from view occasionally. So it's kind of a disorienting kind of experience. But you shoot all those buttons, then you head back down, and this passageway opens. And this will be the optional, harder second route that if somebody wants to get more ammo or they just want to get their kill count up. And Newhouse and I were talking, for example, about how in a lot of levels, secrets are very simple. They're just kind of like these, you shoot a door or you shoot a part of the wall and a door will open or something like that. And you'll get some armor out of it. And there are those sections, there are those secrets in this map too. Like, for example, down here, I need to relocate this button because this is way too obvious. But if you shoot this button, it'll say check the windows. And indeed, if you check these windows, boink, there's a little hidden section right there. So yeah. So it's all just a little bit more about kind of being a little bit more creative with it. Not just in the setup, but also in what's behind those secrets, because I want it to be like, not all the secrets, obviously, but some of them... Hey, Yoshi, how's it going? Some of them, obviously, I want it to be like, you know, you're missing some of your kills. Where are those kills? Well, they're hidden behind a secret, you know. And then this was just kind of my... I don't know. I think originally... I don't even remember what I wanted to do with this area originally. That Fiend is way too fucking effective. I was actually surprised at how close that Fiend was. That's perfect. Really, he's at the perfect height. So... Oh shit, that was really close. Get my ass kicked on my own level, what the fuck. Anyway, so then you get your shotgun. There you go. Hey, Slip, how's it going? So, you grab that shotgun. I need to add a delay to that shotgun. You grab it, buttons, or the doors open, and then you can just go straight through. And that's sort of a similar setup to how it is in the drop, where if you grab, I think, the rune key up there, you can just immediately go into where the door is. And Newhouse also, I didn't know this was that obvious, but credit to him, he actually did correctly realize this setup is very similar to E1M4. In fact, I can pull up E1M4. Oops, my bad. I can pull up E1M4 real quick and just kind of speed through it. But there's a specific section of E1M4 that this is kind of based on, and that would be this thing right here, which this is a much larger area, obviously. And I was going to originally like have the bars and whatnot, but I was like, you know what? This will probably be perfectly fine. This will probably be perfectly fine. Also, did you know the monsters can infight? That's sort of the fun thing about it, is that they can actually infight. So sometimes it's actually more effective to, especially if it's a really annoying enemy like a boar. It's easier to just let the other monsters attack each other. And I originally did have that on that platform that pops up, but it was a boar. It wasn't a fiend, and that was really annoying to deal with, like almost too annoying. And it would just keep infighting with the scrags that popped in. So I was like, screw it, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. We'll just replace it with a fiend. And surprisingly, they're the exact same bounding box. So it was very much just an easy replacement. And these are, by the way, what enemy teleports look like. If I pop the lid on these, you can actually see. So there's a teleporter that's a trigger teleport brush entity, and then the actual monster inside it. And these just kind of sit unaggroed until you grab this key, which the key links to the door and also to the relay, which is what actually powers, so to speak, the teleporters. So that should give you kind of an idea of, and this is very much a hack, although it's kind of not. I remember id using some of this, but so I have the setup for just the level. This can be improved. All right, bye Yoshi. This can be improved for sure, but it's a good start. Yeah, you can say that so much, I suppose. Anyway, so the one thing I wanted to build on stream right here is that hidden extra section, you know, because you saw the door come down. And yeah, actually, that's sort of the weird thing about it. In fact, I'll show you this right now, because this is more a problem with Trench Brim than anything else. If I load in an external... It can't have multiple FGDs open for whatever reason. So if I take, like... Newhouse gave me an FGD. I load that, and it does add in some of the extra entities, like, for example, the external sound, but for whatever reason, it can't load in, and it's supposed to be able to, but it can't load in the extra models for whatever reason. And also, you can see that I have far fewer of the, blanking on them, key values. That's the word. I sort of, you know, I have fewer of those key values. Not that I'm using them at current, but Yeah, it can. I just don't know why it's not for whatever reason. It says file not found. I'm not sure what that's about. Either way, let me try to just reload the original FGD that I was using, because I know that there's some extra stuff, and I'll eventually have to switch to blue if I want to use like the Void Knight or any of the new monsters, but I'm lazy, and I've just been building this with id1, so I'm just gonna keep that at least for this next section. So Trench Broom, games, Quake. Here we go. Yeah. There we go. And that adds in all the extra stuff. And I think I actually had a copy of this FGD that had much improved I keep blanking on the terms. The explanation text, the flavor text or whatever it is, the explanation text for this. And I think you can actually see, I don't know if this was me or not, I don't remember. But it had a much improved FGD, and naturally no actual editor other than BSP, believe it or not, supports that flavor text, or at least displaying it. They just display the key value name if you're in the smart edit mode, and that's about it. So, you know, that's fun. Is there background noise? I don't see anything. I mean, obviously I can't hear myself, but I don't see anything that would make me believe that there's background noise. Other than, like, my normal mic hum. You might be hearing cars outside because the person who bought this, not really bought, rented this house, decided to rent the one next to a fucking highway. That is not a nice life. I'm just saying, don't live near a highway. I've done it twice now. It sucks. Anyway. It's the preview of the next Aphrodisiac album. I really need to... I'm gonna... That's next year. As far as music goes, I do want to eventually finish up the NTLX album. Just get 2 last tracks. No, my computer is pretty silent. I don't actually think I have the fans up that high. No. Fans aren't on full blast right now. Either way. So let's actually get into the process of building a section of the level. And of course, this is going to be nothing new to Newhouse, but none of you, other than him, do Quake mapping. So we're going to just get into it. So the way that Quake works is a lot more sensical, I think, than how earlier game engines like Build or Doom did it. With Quake, you have solids, or essentially what make up the game world. And these are called brushes. And a brush is, well, it's a solid. It can't move. For the most part, I'll explain that. It can't move. It doesn't deform. And it's pretty much just static. And that's sort of what the bulk of your level is actually built with. Now, earlier engines used to use something called sectors. Earlier, quote-unquote 3D engines. Doom, as an example, used to use sectors. Anything based on build, so Duke Nukem 3D, Redneck Rampage, Shadow Warrior, Blood, I think Rise of the Triad might have used sectors, I don't remember. And what those are literally, it's the exact opposite. Rather than, you use brushes to build the walls, the ceiling, supports, whatever, you make a sector, and that's what it is. It is a room. And depending on the engine, that room might be able to have a sloped floor, maybe, kind of, sort of. Doom didn't support that. Build did support that. But another big issue is that these renderers, because they were so simple, couldn't handle room over room. And that's why if you look at actual Doom source ports now, all of them pretty much use their own renderer at this point. They don't use the vanilla renderer. I think Chocolate Doom might. But the rest of them all have their own actual proper 3D renderer. So that way they can handle room over room, because, God forbid you use a different game engine. God forbid you keep a purist mindset a little bit. Either way, for Quake, it is pretty much just brushes. And a brush can be anything that is convex. So, of course, Trench Room doesn't let you build concave solids for the most part. But essentially, anything that you can draw a line between, like here. I will do something. Oops. Imagine this was one brush. That's a concave solid, because you see how if you can draw a line from one point to another point on the shape and potentially be going out of the shape. That's not allowed. And in fact, if I join these two, you could see it just, it goes back to being just a convex shape. And you can do stuff with this. Like I can pull like corners here and make something odd. That's a good example. You see how it triangulated that face? That's because if you just pulled this vertex up, it would have made it concave. And of course that's not allowed. So it'll automatically triangulate that face, so that way it's still technically a valid solid. And that's just one of the nice things about Trench Broom. You cannot. That's a problem with Hammer. That's a problem with Jack, BSP, basically any other editor. They don't automatically triangulate faces. I think Jack, you can do it in a setting, but if you have an invalid solid, the map won't compile properly. Either it'll just leave that out, or it will literally refuse to compile the map. And that can also lead to map leaks and what have you. But we'll get into leaks in a moment. So let's get to building this a little bit. Let's get back into this. So I'll select the texture from the floor and just try to draw out the floor. And of course you can set different grids for how fine you want your solids. So if I'm at a grid 16, you can see that of course it's half the size of a grid 32. But let me just drag this out. And actually, I think I want this going up. I sort of put thought into what I wanted, but not a whole lot of thought. Actually, now let me drag this down. So that way I can give myself a little bit of clearance. And I'm not going to worry about lighting right now. Man, does Sushi know I'm streaming? I feel like I kind of want to get Sushi in here, because he was asking me about Quake the other day. Let me get him in here real quick. And oh no, you might see my friend list. You might see my Discord tag for a moment. Oh no, how spooky. Be warned. Let me grab a copy of the stream. This, whatever I was up to, I don't remember. Oh, this isn't mechanical. This is not mechanical, I promise you. I wish it was. This is I don't know how to describe it. I had a friend who was really weird. He's kind of like the kind of kid who goes to flea markets a lot and like junkyards and shit. I don't know how to describe it. He's weird. He's basically the type he's gonna have like Waco out in the middle of Pennsylvania in like 10 years. Dude is like super resourceful, just fixes fucking everything with duct tape. He's great. Anyway, so at one point he came into a bunch of these OEM boards. This is a Wise board, and it's not mechanical. It's just really fucking loud, and it's heavy too. There is like a serious chunk of metal in this thing. I'm not kidding when I say you could break a toddler's neck with this thing. This keyboard has taken its lumps, unfortunately. If you listen to the spacebar, I'm not pressing down on it. The tabs in the spacebar are broken, so it's just kind of hanging on there, and I think the same thing is happening to the shift keys. But This is still my all-time favorite keyboard. I've had this thing for, God, 5 or 6 years now, 7 maybe. I really like it. And you know what the weirdest part is? It's not just a keyboard. There's a mouse port on the side, but it's a PS2 mouse. I'm not kidding. It is a USB keyboard, but it's a PS2 mouse connector on the side. There are no like USB ports or anything on this keyboard. It's so strange. And I'm like, and the thing is, the PS2 port is also hot swappable, which I don't think is the case for the actual PS2 ports on a computer. It's just like, the fuck? Like, seriously, the mouse that came with it, which is the same Weiss mouse, it is just a PS2 port on the side that you plug this mouse into. And it just shows up as a mouse-keyboard combo to whatever you plug it into. I don't understand how that works, but I really, really do like this keyboard. And like I said, the finish is coming off in places. It's very smooth. I want to get back in touch with them and get a second one of these keyboards. Oh, yeah, and Borb visited not too long ago. So, I just really like this board. I really like this keyboard. And believe it or not, that being PS2 actually saved us because Borb had to rescue a bunch of her art from an old computer, which I have under my desk right now. That's the E-Machines box right here. And the USB drivers were disabled on it for some reason. So nothing USB worked on it. The devices received power, but nothing would happen with them. So thankfully, me having an actual spare PS2 mouse let her take this computer here, and then she brought the keyboard, and we were able to restore full functionality of the machine like that. Yeah, PS2 peripherals are pretty great. Now, I like this computer. I don't give a fuck what anybody else says. This computer is totally unremarkable, and I love it. All right, I have spent much of the past month using it, and I love it. I am here to... It ran Windows XP. This is a later E-Machines. This isn't one of the 90s ones from when they were doing Never Obsolete. This is one of the later ones. I have a. In fact, I'll just pull up my blog real quick and I'll send it. Yeah, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. It'll do. Yeah, I have a thing on this machine right here, if you care too much. But getting back to the actual map itself, I do hate having to specify that every time I bring it up. They're like, oh, it's a PS2 keyboard? Like the one for the PlayStation 2? No, kill yourself. Anyway, so getting back to what I was doing. Honestly, I do have some upgrades I want to do on it. I think I'm going to drag that out, actually. I'm going to drag this window out a little bit. There are some upgrades I do want to do on this machine. It needs a better GPU. It's only got dedicated graphics on board. It needs an actual GPU. And I think the biggest bottleneck right now is the memory. Believe it or not, in 2005, this thing only came with 512 megabytes. It is genuine pain. And I love it, but whenever a web browser comes into the picture, it just does not work. Retrozilla works decently fine, but Firefox, even Firefox 10 ESR makes this thing hit the page file like it's a fucking bong. I hate it. So it needs a lot more RAM. And I know RAM is cheap, but I am very averse to spending money. XP is fine on that much. It's when you're trying to use it for any kind of web purposes that you kind of want more, or games, and that's kind of the eventual goal for this computer, is to eventually start using it for period appropriate games. Yeah, that doesn't sound fun in the slightest. 256 megabytes. Why would I want to upgrade it to 7? Okay, actually, you're joking, Jake, but it is actually Vista. It actually says it's Vista Basic Capable, I think, on the front. Hold on. Let me check. It says... Yeah, okay. It says designed for Windows XP, Windows Vista Capable, which is Microsoft's way of saying it doesn't really work for Vista, but if you like really want to use it, I guess you could try it. 512 megs Vista. You wish. You fucking wish. This computer honestly was so poorly mistreated back when Borb had it. I'm not kidding when I say this thing had the trifecta of Windows Defender, Norton, McAfee, and AVG. Or actually, maybe it was Avast. I don't think it was Norton. I think it was Avast. It was one of those two. And it was just the poor thing was trying its hardest. And I'm like, there is nothing worse you can do for your computer than give it antivirus. Just don't be an idiot. Don't be an idiot and open up like fucking strange websites or porn. Get your porn on like DVD or something, I guess. I don't know. It was 2004. Yeah, AVG was on there. I know that, but it was there were other ones too. I know McAfee was one of them. Windows Defender is good on modern computers. They've improved it a lot. On XP, don't bother. Don't bother. It is bad. Don't bother. What am I trying to do with this area? I think I want to extend this out and then have it be... Okay, I think I remember where I was going with this. Actually, No, Niku. No. I wouldn't know that. Streaming is not the future. People who think that everything is going to be streaming, I fucking absolutely not. Why don't I just extend this out then? Working around my kind of terrible brushwork from ages before. Because I know where I want people to join, or I know where I want this area to start and where I want it to end. It's in between that I have no clue about. Oh yeah, it was this poor machine, man. It was just filled with all sorts of really awful downloadable games, most of which are gone now, although I did keep a couple on there. Actually, I had to reinstall some of them. I'm sorry, Niku, do you want to ask me that again? I don't think that was in the form of a question. What am I trying to do here? Yeah, you know what? How long has it been? Well, okay, so I started this in probably mid-June. And I started this in mid-June. And then... But this actual version of the map is only about a week old. I think I restarted this around the 26th. What the fuck is that? People bumping elbows? Get that shit out of here. That's not free. Yeah, this year. Where are you getting these? Is this seriously like what Google is doing now? Are these real? Do they really have a dab emote? What the fuck? What are you doing? Stop that. That's rancid. I'm so confused. What is going on here? Are these... Alright, whatever. I don't care. What I want it to be is like... that should be fine. What I want it to be is like, you come out. That's the bulb, but it looks like Goatsy. Fucking Goatsy bulb. I don't know if I approve. Okay, I think I have an idea of what I'm doing here. Whoops. My mouse got funny for a moment. I mean, it should be. We do, like, a much better job than fucking anybody else would. Good lord. Let me grab... What the fuck was that? What textures do I have available? Do I not have a straight... Oh, I kind of do. I kind of have a metal texture. I'll use this, I guess. Dude, if only. The internet would be a much different place if we owned fucking Alphabet. It would be glorious. Ooh, sweet. That actually worked. Alright. It'll only be furry art? I don't think so. I like to think we're a little bit more varied than you give us credit for. Alright. I have an idea. Just peeking out anywhere. Alright. Niku, what is your obsession with us doing dirty things? Some of the people in our group are underage. Elves are furry. Fucking called out. Good lord. Chat's a free-for-all right now. It's glorious. It smells like fucking freedom. Alright. I think I have something of a concept for how I want this to go. Alright, I got something. Guns! I didn't know we lived in Apricot Bay. Sweet. Yeah, no, we definitely have guns in here. We definitely have, Yeah, so you get the super shotgun in this area. So what I'm thinking is yeah, I definitely want to have a couple Death Knights in here. I'm just trying to think of the layout. So what I'm thinking is I kind of want this to curl out. Oops. And yeah, it is fun DCB. It just kind of all depends on if you have ideas, really. So the editor that I'm currently using for this is it's called Trench Broom, and originally I started with an editor called Jack. So Quake was not my first level editing experience. Yeah, so you'll probably pick up on what I'm doing New House when I get back to that. But basically, I started in the Half-Life 2 stuff. I started with Gmod, I started with Half-Life 2, I started with, I think I played with Counter-Strike a little bit. So I started with Hammer, of course, because Hammer is the editor that you use if you're playing with anything Source Engine related. So when I first found out about Quake, Jack being a recreation of Hammer, although technically it used to be called Worldcraft at the time. So Hammer was, it was first Worldcraft, and then it was a Quake editor. And then Valve bought it for Half-Life, and it was called Worldcraft for a little bit longer, and then they upgraded it, and then it became the Valve Hammer editor. And then Hammer was packed in for all the Half-Life 2 and Source stuff, thus Hammer being the editor that you use for Source. And so it only made sense that because Jack was a recreation of Worldcraft, that I would be using that to make my first Quake level. And Temple of the Strange was built using Jack. However, by the time I actually got into the scene, what everybody was using was called Trench Broom. And that's what you've been watching this entire time. I'd rather not, Borb. I honestly would rather not. Anyway, and the whole thing about Trench Broom is that it was kind of a take on, I believe, what was it called? The editor for some free FPS game. And that was very much like you were pulling on, basically like you could go into the game and you were like pulling on the edges of walls and what have you to build the world. And the guy who built this, Christian Dusk, I think his name is, Sleepwalker is what he goes by, he was like, that's brilliant. And then he started building Trench Broom, which is what you're seeing here. And at the time I was really trying to use as many editors as I could, try to get familiar with all of them. And so that's largely what I ended up doing. But Trench Broom is just the most intuitive of the lot. As you can see, it is literally just you're dragging out walls in the 3D view. That is a tight fit. Let me not. And Trench Broom does have 2D views. Like if I press space, it does have 2D views that you can use. And you can even have it be like a traditional 4 editor kind of setup. I don't like that, though. That's what I do in all of my other editors. If Trench Broom's biggest thing is editing in the 3D view, I'm going to edit in the 3D view. That's just what makes sense to me. So that's largely what I've been doing. I mean, it's a pretty intuitive editor. I'm not surprised Roblox is kind of like it. by the way, it's not going to be this tall. I'm just trying to get a layout going. You know what? I don't think I'm going to go with curve. I think I'm just going to... Chat's on some fucking shit, and I'm just hoping that by not acknowledging it, I can fucking snuff it out. I'm just going to go with a diagonal. Hey, Sushi, how's it going? I would advise you not to be put off by whatever the fuck everybody in chat took today. Because they're on some shit. But that's okay. You know, it's 4th of July. It's a free country. That's what we're here to celebrate. Fucking freedom. No, it is very much not. The player is very fucking small, honestly. Here, give me a moment. Where is my black? I could just select it in the face editor, but I don't feel like it. Let me seal off the map real quick. And I'll show you, I'll tell you exactly why I have to do that. So, the way that Quake's compile tools work, this is not black. Black, please. Thank you. The way that Quake's compile tools work is they work by finding... There's actually 3 stages. So there's BSP, or QBSP, I guess, Viz, and then Light. And so the map compiling process is done in 3 different steps. Let me just seal this off. And in order for the way that the engine does its visibility calculations, there has to be no way for the player inside the level to get outside of the level. If they can, that's called a leak. So let me see if I can... Here, I'll even show you it. So I'll take this off, and I will compile without my normal leak test parameter. And I'll just show you, actually, here. I'm going to do it on this instead. So if I try to run this, watch the output of the compile tool. You'll see that there's a warning: reached occupant at blah 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 blah. No filling performed. Don't give him mod. So what that means is that the editor cannot find the difference between the outside of the level and the inside of the level. And there's a couple reasons why that's really bad. For one thing, the engine won't be able to do any visibility calculations. And the other reason is that it also won't be able to do any backface culling, which is where the level will actually prune basically the outside of the bits and just have this sort of inside area that is a lot smaller, a lot lighter for computers at the time to handle. So without that, if I try to, in fact, I'll even try to run the level. Oops, come on. There we go. Let's run the level real quick. So first thing you'll see, by the way, is that there's no lighting because I didn't run light. But the other thing you'll see is if I turn on R speeds, it's rendering the entire level. You can see right up there that it is rendering 2,381 polys. That's because there is no visibility calculations. And of course, that would handily fuck over anything that would be running it at the time. I'll turn node target on, and I'll show you what's going on over there. There you go. You see how there's just this outside void area, and you see the entirety of the level. Normally, you would not be able to see the outside of the level because it does, like I said, backface culling, which takes all of these outside bits that aren't shown anywhere in the level and cuts them out. So that's not a thing if obviously there's a way outside of the level, and it's all around just bad. You don't want that. So let's reseal the level, and I will explain what the compile tools are doing in a little bit better detail. So it's sealed. So watch, I'll even run that again. I'll even run leak test so you guys can see that. So there we go. Leak test completed. We're good. Let's run the level again. So there's 3 steps. Like I said, there's 3 steps to compiling a level. So if I just run what we just compiled, there's still no light, but you can see that obviously the speeds are a lot lower. Or they're not a whole lot lower. There's still no visibility calculations, but the outside of the level got cut, which is how you could see the inside of the level. You know how you couldn't see that before? That's because it cut out all of the back faces. So QBSP just transforms all of your brushes into one solid, literally a model. It's actually an entity model that's, that's your level. And it's always entity 0, and that's world spawn. If I go back into the editor, you can see that it calls this world spawn. And world spawn is just the world, basically. It doesn't have an entity. So after QBSP builds the level geometry and places all of the entities, then comes the other 2 tools. There's Viz, which is for visibility stuff. And they actually thought of a really neat compromise to get a full 3D game working on literally a Pentium 70, a Pentium 90 of the time, basically super low-end specs. And the way that they did that is they realized that every edge of a brush can split the world up into these smaller sections, I guess you can call them, bubbles almost. And say, for example, if I'm standing right here, you can't see what's around this corner. So what they thought to do instead was, all right, well, let's take that corner and let's have it cut space. Let's literally have it make a, basically split the open part of the world, the actual inside of it. Let's have it split that. And then we'll have another tool that determines which of these bubbles can see each other. So that way, if you're standing right here, you're not going to be rendering the next room over that you can't see. So, and I'm not going to be able to get this working in this map because for whatever reason the portal file's fucking broken. But I do have Jack, so I can actually show off Jack, and I'll show you what a portal file literally looks like. This is the old editor that I used to use, and like I said, there's a bunch of different editors, so I can show you what each of the different ones are. But this is Jack. This is the one that I normally use, or I used to use anyway. I don't care. There are no textures, because Jack does not load its textures like fucking the rest of the world does, whatever. Anyway, so let me add in... Do I have... I don't think I even have the files for the drop. Maybe I do. Hold on. I don't have it. Okay. Well, let's clear that up real quick. Let me go back to my site. And let me download the version of the drop that I have on the site. Does this come with the WAD? Fuck. It does not come with the WAD. That's fantastic. You know what? Fuck it. We don't need a WAD for my point. So let me just grab the map file. and I will load it into Jack right here. Oh, I have the DM4 Jam mod. Cool. I'll just use that then. That'll work. We don't need any of this. Get rid of this. Sorry, I can't see chat right now. I'll show you guys in a moment. So let me load up DM4 Jam. Please hope this works. It kind of works. Whatever. Cool. Cool. So these are the source files for my DM4 Jam entry. And some of the textures are missing. That's going to be perfectly fine. This is how complicated a level can get. This is one that I built 2 years ago. So I'll just run the map right now. Sure, screw it. That's fine. Save it. We'll run it. Don't run the game. That's perfectly fine. So that's a full compile process right there. I'll go ahead and I'll load in what's called the portal file. And you can see, what? Portal file is corrupt? What the fuck is going on with these compile tools now? It was saying that the portal file was empty the last time. God damn it. Please tell me I have another fucking QBSP on here. You're seeing the magic. You're watching the magic right now. Please tell me I have another QBSP on here. BSP, maybe, please? I think tools came with BSP. Alright, fine. Run the old QBSP. Please work. Please let me make my point. What? Fuck. I can't make my point. Whatever. I guess you'll just have to take me on my word that each of these brushes in this level split the world up into these bubbles, right? And then the game, the Viz tool, will test between these. And then, you know, that determines what you can and can't see. Because obviously, if the bubble that I'm standing in right now can't see the bubble that I'm standing in right now, the tool is going to make note of that, and it's not going to render those two. So you see how that works. Okay. That was a very long-winded way to make my point. But that's the second part of the compile phase, is Viz. Or technically the third. Doesn't really matter. So once that's done, and that's normally what takes the longest time, if we just run that, here, I'm going to make it so it doesn't run light real quick. So it's only run QBSP and it's run Viz. Take a look at the R speeds now. You see how much smaller they are? If I do lock PBS, in fact, let me do that real quick. So R lock PBS. If I lock the PBS right now, you can see that most of the world is not being rendered. It's because you can't see them. There's no point to rendering what you can't see. Of course, the world still exists. It just doesn't render them, and that keeps everything a little bit lower. You can literally play the level like this if you really want. They might be firecrackers, Borb. Oh, there's the spiky thing. It's pretty great. But now we get into the last tool, and that's light, and that's a whole lot simpler. Literally, light takes all of those light sources that I have around the level and turns them into light maps that then get added onto the faces of the level. So every single face in this map, and of course I can't show you because there's no fucking... Actually, wait. Okay, there is R draw flat in this engine. Quake Spasm doesn't have it. So this is, as you can see... Oh, I guess I had no target bound. Alright, I guess parts of me are coming back to 2018. But as you can see, this is the way that QBSP splits all of these faces up into polygons. And there's actually a light map for every single one of these colored squares. Every single one of them. The only difference is models. And there aren't that many models, but obviously like the torch is a model, the gun is a model, the monsters are models, and those are lit using a thing called point lighting, which literally samples the light map directly underneath whatever the model is standing on, and then it just applies that across the model as a global multiplier. So if I turn draw flat off, what's under me is black. So it's still going to render the gun, but it's going to render it a lot lower. Whereas if I step into the light, you can see that it's, because this light map is actually flickering, you can actually see that the gun is also slightly flickering. Or actually it's not. But if I stand in the dark, it doesn't, it's not perfect. If you have a large enough model and one part is in the shadows and one part isn't, it's just going to kind of be in the middle. But that roughly works. And also shadows aren't dynamic. So, for example, if I think the best way to show that is if I go back over here. You see in the editor how this little plinth thing that comes up, you see how it's like this as it is in the editor. This is actually a door that starts open. So this is technically its closed phase, the way it is right now. So all of the lights and stuff in the scene are going to light it while it's closed. But it starts open, which means it starts in the ground. So if I go back to the game real quick and I grab the key, pay attention to the sides of the plinth. You see how they didn't change at all? There's no dynamic lighting to speak of. It's just the game. When the map got compiled, the light maps obviously hit this for when it was in its closed position, which is how it is in the editor. But it started open. And normally it doesn't really matter, but it can kind of matter for like trains and things where sometimes it'll be in a dark spot, sometimes it'll be in a light spot, and it won't show that. It'll just show whatever it was lit by, when the map was compiled. It's kind of funny how that works. But either way, so light is doing a couple things, and then since, like I said, I'm using Eric W tools, light is doing a couple more things. If I go back to the editor and I deselect this door, you can see that it's got, for example, bounce. It's got bounce lighting, which will make the map a little bit brighter because the lights will be traveling further. Radiosity is called. Dirt mapping, that's the ambient occlusion stuff. It can do sunlight. And in fact, I can just pull up Eric W tools, and he has a great demonstration of what this looks like on his site. So without bounce, it's a pretty dark level. Now this level, this was AZAD, I guess it's called, whatever. This was meant for bounce lighting, so obviously it's pretty dark. If you start to turn the bounce scale up, which turns bounce on, you see that light slowly starts to creep a little bit more and more into those shadows because it starts to bounce and starts to fill up the dark spots. If you set bounce scale to 2, obviously everything looks a little too bright. It's kind of weird. So it's got bounce. It's got Phong shading. So for example, these pipes, normally they'd be pretty faceted looking, but if there's Phong, it'll smooth it out across non-90 degree angles, basically. Ambient occlusion. So as you can see here, if you turn up the dirt depth, the shadows will all start to be different because it's, of course, bleeding literal darkness from the edges of each brush. Sunlight. So it'll make a hemisphere of suns, which are basically just point lights, around the level, thus creating what looks to be sunlight just hitting the outside of a big empty space. You can smooth out the shadows. You can smooth out lights like that, surface lights. So it's just a more sort of, it's just sort of a stronger tool set, I guess you could say. But we've already been going for an hour and a half, and I do want to continue. So let me continue on. But that's the 3 stages of a map compile. It's got to build the geometry and the entities. Then it's got to determine all of the visibility calculations to make the map run better. And then it's got to compile all the lighting. And, of course, you can imagine that with all those calculations, on an older machine, it can take a little while. QBSP never takes more than a couple seconds for the most part. Viz takes a lot longer because it's, of course, testing every single empty spot in the level, basically. That's not strictly true, but essentially. And then light kind of depends. I mean, it has to generate light maps for every single face in the level. So yeah, it can take a little while. It just all depends, really. But getting back into the actual building of the level itself, what I was thinking is you had sort of this long stretch fighting off, yeah, some Death Knights. And let me try to extend this out a little bit. Whoops. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do at all. Yeah, like I think Newhouse said before, it's just a big loop kind of point. I don't know if this is necessarily how it's going to actually look, but we'll see. And sort of what I'm imagining is you come out here and I kind of take a lot of the I take a lot of liberties with the brushwork. Some of this is not the neatest it could be, but that's fine, whatever. And then what I think I kind of want is... I really wish I could turn on the AC, but I'm, you know, obviously working on stuff right now, so I can't. What I might do... because I want sort of this raised section right here. And we're also going to vary up the textures a little bit. Boy, whoops. It's still horribly blocky, but that might do for right now. Maybe. Bring these down. Whoops. Because kind of what I was imagining is, actually, that's kind of a neat idea. To have water sort of in the middle of this, I guess you could call it a sewer section. I haven't quite decided. That's a little deep. I suppose I don't actually want it to be swimming depth. I just kind of want it to be something to splash around in. Also, since it was asked if this is going to be too narrow for the player, absolutely not. Watch. It's perfectly fine. What I might do, I haven't decided. I was debating making the ceiling slope down a little bit. Yeah, that can work. Especially, there should be a way to get back up. I don't know, because the next section of this map is going to be liquids anyway, so I'm not too sure what I'm doing. Yeah, that's definitely going to be way too deep for the player. I'm going to drag that back up a little bit. Even that might be a little too deep. Let me check. Yeah, they're going to be underwater. Okay, we're just going to drop that down. Come on. The player in Quake is oddly short. In fact, this actually got me, because one of the first things I worked on before I actually got into Quake mapping proper was the original map sources for Quake are all available. Kind of late beta map sources, but they're still the map sources. And one thing that I tried to do was I tried to port them to Gary's mod. I really didn't know that much about the Quake engine at the time, so YouTube is fucking spastic. I'm telling you guys, it's better to just chat in IRC, honestly. I only keep the stream chat open just in case someone pops in, but yeah, it's probably better to just chat in IRC. Anyway, I didn't know that much about Quake, so it really didn't go too well. But one of the things that I didn't account for was actually the height difference between the player in Half-Life 2, or Gary's mod technically, and the height of the player in Quake. Because the player in Quake, I think, is... God, how tall? 56 units tall. And the player in Half-Life 2 is... I mean, I know in CS Source it's 64. Let me check. Yeah, here we go. So the players, yeah, here we go, collision holes. So yeah, this is actually what my Mega IRC window looked like, and I was very glad when Addy IRC let me totally just remake it, because it wasn't to my liking, and one of my biggest issues was I didn't know of an IRC client that was going to do exactly what I wanted to do, which was everything Mega IRC did, but not terrible. And Addy IRC ended up fitting the bill really nicely. But either way, so standing, the player is 73 units tall. So compare 56 units to 73 units. Obviously, there's a bit of a height difference. So, you know, there are actually spots in Quake that are perfectly fine for the player to get through. Hex chat's okay. I don't really like hex chat. Addy IRC, I think, is the one that I'm going to go with from now on. But Sushi, I mean, if you want to hop on IRC, we have a room, Somnol, in on /net. If you want to hop in over there. But either way, I really like Addy IRC. Okay. And I'll put down... God, I don't even know. I don't even know what I'll put down there. That's fine. It's alright for right now. Kind of want a nice little bridge. So I think I'm going to put down a nice little bridge. I'm going to extend out the waterway so that way it's... the bridge actually makes sense, I guess. I actually can. There are actually fish in the game. They're called rotfish, and they're kind of fucking nasty. Let me actually show you what a rotfish looks like in game, because, like I said, they're kind of nasty. They're not too difficult, but they're not pleasant. I think there's one in E2M2. E2M4 try. Okay, E2M3, I was right. So, yeah, there's definitely one in Crypt of Decay. Because there's this big water section outside. And if you hop in the water... And, of course, water normally looks like this in Quake. Because the original maps were not compiled for transparent water, which is another thing that the new compilers support, is transparent water. So, these earlier maps, like the ones that it had, we're expecting water to look like this. But if you have your water alpha set for new maps, it's still going to try to fade it a little bit. But as you can see, whoops, ooh, I don't know what that was about, but okay. You can see that it just has nothing. It has no idea what to do with the water surface. Anyway, but yeah, so these are rotfish, and they'll try to, yeah, they'll just try to bite you. They don't do a whole lot of damage, but you know. And they're a little annoying because when a mob dies or when a monster dies in Quake, actually here, if I put down a monster, you see how there's this box around it that actually extends far out past the monster? That's called a bounding box. And a bounding box is a very, very efficient, simple, cheap way to test for collisions. And... so every model in Quake, every monster has a bounding box. And as you can see for like the Shambler, the bounding box is a lot closer to what the actual monster is because he doesn't really move around a lot. He just kind of, you know, shuffles. He's not jumping or anything, so his bounding box doesn't need to extend past his head that much. The Fiend, as you saw earlier, all they do is leap. So... naturally, his bounding box has to be a whole lot taller in order for him to work. And Trench Broom, as far as I know, is one of the few editors to actually show off the bounding box. So, for example, you can also see this about the health, or actually ammo. This works too. If you tried to place this in a tiny space that... here, like, let me show you. If I tried to place this box in this space... visually, it clears it. The bounding box doesn't clear it, though, so this item wouldn't appear in-game. That actually gave me a lot of trouble when I was working in Jack, because the monster, or the, monsters and health and items, it didn't show me the bounding box. So, I would place something in what looked to be enough space, but there wasn't enough space. So, I would just be like, why the fuck isn't my health box showing up? And also, if you put things too close to walls, like, for example, this guy down here, if I put him right up against the light source, he wouldn't be able to move. I don't know why, but bounding boxes, they just need a lot of space around them in order to work. Otherwise, they get stuck. And that's actually, I think, what was happening a little bit. I remember somebody was complaining about that with Temple. Some of the monsters in, I think, the cavern area, they just couldn't move. They just couldn't get anywhere. And they were like, well, why is that? And the answer is their bounding box was colliding with the world. Actually, I think I can just join these. That's cool. That'll work. So I think what I might do with this area, I wasn't too sure how I wanted to present it. I think I might turn this into a little sewer area and sort of just have it go I guess based around that. And let me try to... I always have a tough time with ceilings. I never really want the player to look up, so every time, you know, I have that issue, I'm like, I really never know what to do with them. Usually, the best I can think of is I'll just vary the height of flat ceilings and call that good. But that only gets us so far. But yeah, I do wanna actually properly get something done on stream here, so that way we can build something and I can show you guys. That's probably not the smartest thing to do, actually. Is it because it's so far out? That little bit of texture weirdness, I was trying to figure that out. That might actually be the cause of it. I always like to work with the textures when I'm building, because that generally means it makes more sense. And yeah, that's one thing that I think has been lost. Because people are like, oh, I have 32 gigs of RAM, I have 64 gigs of RAM, I don't have to give a fuck about optimization. And it just pisses me off so bad, because the fact is, there's so much quote-unquote low-end tech that could very well do a whole lot more than what people can actually do with it, because nobody cares about optimization anymore. And that's the one thing that's the reason why I went on that tangent earlier about what all the compile tools were doing. Because Quake, this game was meant to run on basically anything that wasn't a 486. As long as it had like a floating point unit, it could run. Maybe not very well, but it could run. And that's the thing. It's so well optimized. Like, the whole thing that I was talking about with all the testing between the bubbles, each of the bubbles are called visleaves. And, you know, that whole potentially visible set, which is what the game is actually rendering, that's why I said lock PVS, that's a potentially visible set. That's a way to keep the game not rendering that much. They literally had a poly limit of like 500 polys for any scene in a level. Obviously, levels get to be a lot more than 500 polys, but generally speaking, you're talking about any one particular frame only rendering about 500 to 600 polys. And aside from a couple spots, they hit that. And if they ever went beyond that, because that would make their test machine chug, which is, you know, what they were targeting, like a Pentium. I mean, it was 1996, basically. You know, not everybody was rocking Pentium Pros at that point. If their test machine started chugging, they're like, all right, well, I guess we have to simplify this level down. And the Wii is, yeah, another example. It's horribly underpowered, but there's still some games that manage to do some crazy things with it. A good example being like the Rogue Squadron games. I think they were getting like fucking depth of field effects on the Wii. And some of those games were also getting like shader effects working without programmable shaders. And that's just smart coding. And that's the problem, is that everybody fucking, they want, you know, they go totally ham on all of these ideas that they have. The problem being, you know, what about all of the people who are actually gonna, you know, it's like when you have like the streaming people, you know, oh, well, you know, who can't stream 720p video? I'm like, I can name at least 2 of my friends who can't consistently stream 720p video. Like, that's the real world. It's not this fucking Linus Tech Tips world where, you know, everybody's got a fucking i9 900 whatever the fuck unlocked. You know, we're peaking 5 gigahertz. Not everybody is running that. You have to kind of give a fuck. And a lot of people just don't. And it's like the art of good coding is fucking dead. Like, it doesn't matter. Some It doesn't matter to people. Why would it matter? You know, I can run it on my machine. You should just get a better computer. And then all these perfectly good computers that just needed a little bit more care are suddenly just trash. Who gives a fuck? And I'm like, I'm seriously thinking, like, if I upgrade the RAM in this, and even the hard drive isn't particularly slow, it's not a bad machine. With a couple of upgrades, this thing could potentially just be a general purpose computer. And there's still a lot of computers that were built XP era that could do that. Certainly computers that were built during the Windows 7 era are still perfectly fine. The machine you're watching this on, that I'm building levels in and doing live streams in, it's from 2014. It can still handle this stuff perfectly fine because it's not a bad computer. People are just horrific at fucking optimization. I don't understand where people get off thinking, oh, it's fine, everybody can just run, a fucking interpreted script all the time. It's perfectly fine. If they can't just get a better computer. No, absolutely not. But anyway, getting back to this level. It creates. I just wrote a post about this the other day, and I figure I'll drop that in the chat too. You'd think I just have my blog bookmarked, but I guess I don't. Yeah, I just wrote a thing about this, about the way that we have this constant need to upgrade everything, this constant need to quote-unquote make everything better. But we're just creating more problems than it's worth. And of course, you ask everybody, and it's a different problem. The environmentalist people will go, oh, well, it's a problem with, environmental concerns. We're killing the environment. And you ask, you ask different people, and they all have this different problem. But the problem is never the actual problem, which is we're causing more problems than it's actually worth. Like, I use in that article the example of analog TV. And the whole thing about analog TV is that it was working perfectly fine. There was no legitimate reason why we needed to switch over to all digital broadcasting. It just sounded good. It meant people would have to buy a new TV. It would have, and the government could then take all the frequencies that people were using for UHF and VHF and sell them off to the phone companies, so that way they could just, use them for. And of course, the ironic part, and I didn't go into this in the post, the ironic part is that a lot of these cell companies, they couldn't do anything. They couldn't do anything with these frequencies because they're just too low. Their penetration wasn't great, or maybe the speed. I don't remember. That's the sort of thing about wireless communications, is that it's either slow, or it can penetrate walls and concrete basically, or it's really fast and it can't go any further than the room you're in. That's your trade-off, and that's sort of the problem. That you had perfectly good broadcasting standards, and then people went, well, no, these need to be changed. So now all of these CRTs are useless. People who were getting TV perfectly fine now have all of these problems because they can't, you need to hit the transmitter with more power if you want to reach the same area with a digital signal. The digital signal, it doesn't fade to snow, very gracefully, like the old analog systems did. It just drops out. And I've seen that even with cable. I'll see what looks to be like an MPEG-1 fuck-up, basically, and has all this blocking, and it's just nasty. And that's digital for you, whereas analog would degrade kind of gracefully. Obviously, it would still not be perfect, but it would be watchable, whereas digital, if it's not coming in, it's not coming in. And like I said, we didn't open up these airwaves for hobbyist broadcasters, for community broadcasters. We didn't open them up to anybody who was curious about them. We instead went, all right, well, Some of this goes to the phone companies, and the rest of it, they supposedly were like, oh, some of it will go to first responders and what have you. And, like, that's great. But, you know, we had the police and we had all of this, we had all of this frequency space for the longest time, and there wasn't a problem with it. You know, I don't remember police being hamstrung by analog TV fucking ever. It was just a mess. Haman. It just was not necessary. And yeah, we've gotten Create on and off. I do like PBS. I don't particularly like, the libertarian in me should be like, oh, they're wasteful. But I do have a fondness for PBS. But it's more a fondness for local broadcasting in general. Like, I like, my local ABC affiliate is WNEP, and they have a special place in my heart. Even though I don't watch TV, I don't bother, but I just like the idea of it. I really like the concept of having a dedicated station for your area. You know, something that ostensibly is supposed to care about your concerns. You know, and even if they're not, even if it's just like a totally like fuck off thing, it's still kind of neat. Like, oh, these people live around. I don't know. I'm not making much sense here, but you get my point. Whereas now everybody's like, well, we'll just have it all on the internet. We'll just have it, like, no. No, you're going to have it in some fucking major you'll have it in some city in Chicago. Chicago is a city. You'll have some fucking, you know, it'll be in Illinois, or it'll be in, like, Minnesota or something like that. I don't live in Minnesota. I don't live in these big metropolitan areas. You're not going to give a fuck about my concerns out here in the middle of nowhere, and it's not going to be relevant to me because it's going to be in another state. You know, people will be like, oh, well, the U.S., like, this is a big thing this past month. People are like, oh, the U.S. is on fire. Everything is shit. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Everything is fucking perfectly fine here. Look, I get it. There's parts of the U.S. that are on fire right now. But that doesn't mean that fucking everybody is just, like, destroying shit and is massively unhappy. And it's just the media. It's just the big name media stoking these flames. Because nobody gives a fuck about what happens in their area. They give a fuck about what happens in all of the interesting parts of the country. You know, all of the ones where, you know, people might actually be able to name them. And that's what they focus on. They focus on all of the really awful shit that's happening in Seattle. Well, Seattle's on the other side of the fucking country. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know why I, as a native Pennsylvanian, need to give a shit about what happens in Seattle. I just don't understand. Yet that's what anybody focuses on, you know? I don't believe Canada is in a particularly better spot than the U.S. Yeah, I live in Pennsylvania. I don't believe that Canada is in a particularly better spot than the U.S. To be perfectly honest, I don't think there's any nation on Earth that is really particularly good. No, I don't live in the... I mean, the Midwest is only a state over, but no, I'm in PA. And in fact, I'm actually not on the Midwest side of PA either. I'm in the Poconos. But, or what was I saying? Yeah, there's no country on this planet that is 100%, I feel, in my best interest, which I'm not somebody who requires a lot of a government. In fact, I require a lot of being left alone. And the U.S. is the closest to that, and that's why I'm so uncomfortable with the concept of, like, the rest of the Western world. You have a conservative, they're all just kind of like our liberals. There's no real conservatism there. There's no real nativism there. Everybody just wants, it's like a race to the top, and I don't get it. I don't like it. I like everything to be kind of smaller. I like everything to be more. And that's sort of the thing I don't understand, and I don't particularly care for. I want smaller government. I want I figure, fuck it. You know what? It's the 4th of July. Might as well talk politics, right? I like smaller government, and I like people having certain unalienable rights, and also people being left alone, people not being censored by either, big corporations or the government. I want smaller communities. I want people to be in tune with what's happening around them. And I want there to be accountability, too. I want there to be... I don't want it to be this matter of, well, we don't really have, we don't even really know who are... Like, there's a lot of people that I know who didn't even know who our fucking governor, what his name was. I would say fuck Tom Wolf because he wants to keep this goddamn lockdown going on because he wants to cripple fucking Trump's re-election bid. It has nothing to do with... It doesn't... Cases are fucking dropping, all right? There are a couple places in the U.S. where cases are going up, like fucking Mississippi. Again, I don't live in Mississippi. I don't care. They're dropping around here. And even if they go up again, look, we cannot sustain everything being shut down fucking forever. And it's been pissing me off because people cannot live like this. This is unsustainable. Like, they're saying, oh, we're not going to open up the fucking schools. We're not going to open up the schools next school year. We're going to have everybody going online forever and ever. And it's like, listen, this disease is not... It's not even that dangerous. It is barely anything more than the seasonal flu. And people will go, oh, no, have you seen what this does to your lungs? Have you seen what this can do to people's fucking... Have you cytokine storms? Stay inside. Be afraid. Like, listen, we dealt with fucking polio. We dealt with polio, smallpox, fucking the AIDS epidemic, which I know that's different. That's getting fucked in the ass by a gay dude. That's different. But... We've been through this before. We've done, hell, in the past 20 years, we've done this epidemic thing before. People didn't seem to give a fuck when swine flu was up and about. It was kind of a joke at the time, as far as I can tell. And yeah, I get it. It doesn't have a vaccine. But it's not going to have a vaccine. The virus is so... It's so mutation prone that it's not going to have a vaccine. Because it's gonna be exactly like the flu. You're gonna have, yeah, and that's sort of the thing. But let me finish my point before I talk about Biden. Oh, fucking F. Sorry to hear that, Cabby. We're not going to cure it. We need to understand that occasionally we cannot play nature. Like, this is the hard, scary truth that nobody ever wants to talk about with gun control. You're not going to stop shootings. You're never going to stop shootings. People are fucking... They're going to kill each other somehow. And every 20 or so years, there's a different moral panic as to why these kids are acting like kids. It's not really difficult. It's not really difficult to understand. And honestly, the whole thing about the whole shooting part of it, I feel like I have a special kind of viewpoint on it, given that I quite legitimately, like, in school, I had administrators not so suddenly telling me, oh, we think your son's going to be a school shooter. Like... So I like to think that I have a little bit of a special perspective on that kind of stuff. It might be because of the way that you're treating the kids, honestly. It might not be the guns. It might be the way you're treating the kids. Just thought. And yeah, I get what you're saying. It's a different situation to gun violence, but it's the same general principle of people think that they can legislate out danger. They think that they can totally kill their risk of ever dying from anything. And it doesn't happen like that. Like, I get it. This disease is kind of dangerous if you're in a certain demographic. If you are in... This is what Quake does to a man. I'm sorry, that's been on screen for like four minutes and I haven't noticed it yet. You can reduce the risk by identifying the high-risk populations and keeping them inside, okay? That does not mean that you stop healthy people from going outside and doing the things that make the world go round. You don't make unemployment Okay, are we live again? I sincerely hope we're live again. My internet up and died. Right in the middle of my point. I'm telling you, it's the government trying to keep me down. I'm kidding. Okay. I'm sorry, I'll have to read back through chat and see what I missed. Hi guys, sorry about that. My internet died. Oh, Newhouse is still here. How about that? Okay, so about this point that the virus, we don't know who's infected and we don't know who's at risk. We do. We actually do. I'll reconnect to IRC in a moment. Because my bouncer died, I'm not going to be able to see. There's no chat history on IRC. Okay. For one thing, asymptomatic people don't really shed the virus. They can shed it in rare cases. By and large, they don't. That's been said by the CDC. We're safe for the most part. Is there still... No, we don't. You can't... It's easy to say, okay, this virus is dangerous and it's doing all these horrible things to our economy. But people's lives. Okay, but people's lives are the economy. People's lives are their jobs. People's lives very much are all of these things that you are shutting down because, oh, this virus is scary. Listen, again, among people who are not elderly, immunocompromised, or have a pre-existing condition like a comorbidity, among them, the death toll is like literally in the fucking decimal range. It's only when we're talking about, again, all of those problem groups that, yeah, there is a chance, like a 15-20% chance of them dying. And I get that. It's not necessarily that, we should just be cavalier about those people. But we can't stop the world because of, realistically, people who don't contribute anything to the economy anyway. Or people who have existing conditions. You can't stop the world because a small group of people, and it is a small group of people, the vast majority of the people, if they even have symptoms because of coronavirus, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. It's going to be like mild. It's going to be incredibly mild. Like this mindset that Niku has is the exact problem. People think that, oh, this is dangerous. We can just legislate out our risk. We can just go, okay, we'll just shut everything down. We'll just this, that, and the other. We cannot. You will never reduce the death toll to 0 unless the virus naturally goes away. And the thing is, it's mutation prone. So if there's a good chance that it's going to become something other than coronavirus in a year or two, because that's what the seasonal flu does. That's what fucking the common cold does. There's a reason you don't have a common cold vaccine. It's because it constantly mutates. That's what coronaviruses do. Did you know the common cold is also a coronavirus? At least a couple variants of it, And I get it. People want to compare this to SARS and MERS, but this is an incredibly mild form of those exact same diseases. Incredibly mild. Again, we somehow got through SARS and MERS, but now it's a problem. Listen, it's not about bettering their immune systems. It's not about that. You stay home. You stay home. You shouldn't lock down the country because there's a chance people die of something. You don't do that because that's how you make more people die. That's how you make people lose their jobs, lose their homes. That's how you crater the goddamn economy. But nobody cares about that because as fucking mustonks, nobody cares about that. And as far as Pennsylvania goes, I have an especially strong fuck you to Tom Wolfe, who's going on about masks as if masks even fucking do anything if you're not already sick. Like it's like just casually wearing a condom out. because you're afraid of getting fucking STDs from the air or some shit like that. Like, it's literally, it's even the same sort of, like, people can't really explain why the masks work. It's like, oh, well, maybe the virus won't find its way in your mouth. Well, first off, you're still stewing in your own breath. You're still stewing in your own fucking germs. There's still germs on that mask that aren't coronavirus. Carbon dioxide poisoning is a thing, despite people not wanting to talk about it. And yes, we do know how likely it is. I don't understand why you keep saying, well, we just have no concept of it. We don't know how this virus operates. We do. We've been dealing with it for the past 5 months. And we know that among people our age, among people who are actually working age, among people who have healthy immune systems, the death toll is minuscule. It's absolutely tiny. At best, they're going to show potentially either 50% up to 90% of cases are totally asymptomatic. That's to say, people don't even show symptoms. We've had that happen. Fucking, I think, what is it, Rand Paul? I think Rand Paul got it, and he was like, I'm asymptomatic. I have it, but, you know, I'm not showing any symptoms. And that's the vast majority of people who have it. I could potentially have it. I could potentially be developing it because I went outside recently. Ooh, spooky. I'm not scared. I'm not going to die. I'm fine. There's like a 0.05% chance that I'm going to keel over. We know the incubation period, Niku. It's 2 weeks. It is literally 14 days. That's when people start showing symptoms. So, like when people were talking about, the Tulsa rally was causing all these people to get coronavirus, maybe, but they're not going to show it within 2 days of the fucking rally. They're going to show it within 2 weeks of the rally. That's people. Too bad for people. People, if they're really that concerned, fine. You stay home. You stay home and you live in fear. I'm tired of the world running on fear. I'm tired of people going, well, it's dangerous. I can't. You know, I'm scared. No. That's fucking nonsense. Your chance of dying is minuscule from it. If you don't have a stent in your heart, if you don't have, like, the worst asthma known to man, you will make it through if you happen to get it. And if you're worried about passing it on, what source? The CDC. It's, like, I can get that much if you're talking about, like, some weird treatment or something like that. But if you're talking about the incubation period, that's been known for months. It's been known by every single source. It takes about 2 weeks. So, but we know, the thing is, people talk about the death rates, and it just shows you how damned statistics are. Because you say, oh, it has a 5% death rate. That makes it sound like, I'm trying to convert that to, like, the 1 in whatever, how many people. Is that 1 in 20 people? Makes it sound like 1 in 20 people are going to die. But that's not the case. It's not going to be 1 in 20 people. It's just 1 in 20 people if you average it out over all of the age groups. If you take it, like, among the young, among people under 20, the death rate is literally non-existent. Like, it doesn't seem to affect them any. Which is why I don't know why we're closing down the schools, which are already fucking disease incubators. Like, people already get sick all the time at school. Because it's kind of disgusting. And you think that it's going to be different because of coronavirus. No. People who are young are not going to have problems. They're going to be fine. And people who are, you know, adults, working age, yeah, I have to... I'm not going to be identifying to my nick live on camera, because that's my password. People who are young are fine. People who are working age are mostly fine. Like, the death toll is kind of sort of there. And don't worry, we know you're mentally ill. That's a given. People who are working age are going to be mostly fine. It's people who are older. It's people, like I keep saying it over and over. These are the people who are at a heightened risk of dying from this. Yes, fine. Protect them. But the thing is, when fucking Andrew Cuomo, that's his name, right? the governor of New York, I think. When he goes and puts sick people in fucking nursing homes, because, they're extra beds, and then all of these old people randomly start dying, thus giving New York like a 10% death rate. God, I really wonder why all these people are dying. It's almost like the people who were supposedly handling this with, like, grace and real knowledge of what their doctors are saying. It's like they're the people who have no clue what they're doing and are causing more deaths. But, of course, blame it on Orange Man, I guess. But, like I was saying, it's like with gun control. It's like with any other potentially disastrous thing. You're not going to totally take the death toll down to 0. You're never going to. And yeah, that's what we were talking about with Biden. So we're clear, Biden would die within his first 2-3 years in office. And he is literally demented. He quite clearly has cognitive issues, and it's very fast. It's not pretty. He would be essentially propped up by essentially like a cabal of people behind the scenes, or his fucking his vice president would take over, which I don't know if I necessarily trust his and yeah, that's the thing. I fucking love this article. This article is fucking stupid. In rare cases, breathing your own breath can actually be pretty dangerous, but it has to be high levels. What the fuck ever. I genuinely love it. Like, things are so fucked on the Dem side. I have been thoroughly enjoying this. And that's not to say that I'm like a straight Republican or something. I'm libertarian, but like, it's been fucking funny. It's been fucking really funny to watch. It was so great when Bloomberg showed up, and then he got suddenly, people realized that he kind of has a history of being a massive racist, and everybody suddenly was like, yeah, maybe not Bloomberg. Maybe not Bloomberg. And I'm telling you, it's just like, they didn't have a platform this time. They just kind of were like, well, none of us are Orange Man, so it's fine. Yeah, I guess I'll check some of the more coronavirus stuff. I don't understand what people get up to when they're like, he's unstable. I've never understood that. Because he tweets? I think compared to Bloomberg, I think it would be fucking funny watching two very old people from New York take each other on, but it would be Trump. Andrew Yang versus Ben Shapiro. No, he doesn't. He tweets stuff that pisses people off. That's what he does. He has not nuked people. He has not... He showed remarkable restraint with Soleimani. He has been nothing but level-headed with the coronavirus response. If anything, slightly too cautious. Like, he's not this unstable person like everybody likes to make him out to be. He's fucking not. I don't understand how you can be like, you're this real estate mogul. And you've gotten this far in life, and you managed to make the presidency, and you're a gibbering retard. I don't understand where people... Yeah, but Obama did that too. So... That's not really an unstable thing. That's just kind of like a U.S. chicken hawk kind of thing. I think people should probably stop tearing down other people's property. That might be a strong thought, maybe. No, you should just put the statue out wherever the statue was. Because it's not your property to destroy. I genuinely had people who were trying to fucking argue with me about the concept of, like, you know, well, rioting is a good thing because it gets on the news. It gets people talking. Like, no, it makes everybody think you're actually unstable. Which they are. Like, the same people who want to talk about how unstable fucking Trump is are the people who will go out and burn down buildings in their own communities and fucking... And that we saw that literally the first night after this whole George Floyd thing showed up. Literally the first night. We're already starting to burn shit. And it's just like... Alright, I guess I don't give a shit. Because I don't. I genuinely don't. If people have a genuine grievance, you deal with it with voting and with the legislative process. But they don't care about that because they're all black-pilled. They're all these fucking whiners who want to go, you know, the system's just rigged, man. Like, no, the system... Okay, fine, the system is kind of corrupt, but is it rigged against you? Well, I can't tell, because you've never tried the actual, you know, legislative process. You just kind of immediately went to destroying shit. So, you know, if it is against you, I guess we'll never know, because you keep proving them right by destroying shit. And of course, it's perfectly fine, by the way, for them. It's perfectly fine for them to go out without masks and all that shit. But, you know, you as a business owner, no, you gotta keep your business closed down. What are you, some kind of right-wing extremist? I have no tolerance for it. Alright, let's get an arch going. How long is the stream been going? 2.5 hours. Alright. Let's see if we can get something done by the 3-hour mark. If nothing else, just compiling this room and letting you guys see what the results of all that was. There's probably a better way to build arches, but this is just my weird, shitty way of doing it. Can someone please get in that cringe boomer zoomer clip? I feel like it's especially relevant right now. Honestly, I think that the solution really is people should just get the fuck off Twitter. Like, the problem is you'd be a whole lot less fucking black-pilled if you just got the fuck off Twitter. Because it's designed to make you miserable. Like, that's literally what they're designed for at this point. I've asked people who are huge users of fucking social media, who like to think that they're informed, and I ask them, like, why do you bother? This shit makes you miserable. And they go, yeah, it does, but I use it anyway. Genuinely fucking mouth breather. Genuinely, your parents are related. Like, I will forever maintain that nothing important has ever happened on Twitter. Nothing. And that's because nothing has happened on Twitter. It's just a place for fucking people to argue. And that's great. I wish people would just admit that, though. I wish they would just go, okay, I guess we're just all here to be miserable. But they don't like to admit that part. Because they want to feel like they're changing the world, that there's something noble going on. But there's nothing noble going on. Because it is all just people fucking... Nothing happens. It is all just people's opinions. And it's like, you shouldn't take my opinions any more seriously than anybody else should take anybody else's opinions. Because opinions are just that. They're great. It's fun to banter with people. But they don't matter. And that's the problem. People think they do matter. People think that they can tweet at a politician like, hey, you're a bad person. And you hate babies. And all this other nonsense. It's like, that's fantastic. Good for you. But, like, you haven't made a difference. You've just kind of shouted into a void and gotten some ass pats for it. Fucking, oh, look, 19 people like this tweet. That's fantastic. 19 people need to get a fucking life. Seriously. Like, you have all of these creative people. You have all of these, you have all these creative people who suddenly think, oh, everybody needs to hear my opinions constantly. And it's like, listen, I know I sound like a hypocrite right now because I'm working on a map and talking about my political opinions, but, like, I was asked about this stuff. Like, this is organic conversation with chat. These people just randomly out in a void. Fucking, there you go. Bet you needed to know how much I hate cops. Fantastic. Can you please just give me what I came here for? That being your fucking art, please? Because I don't care. Like, I find it highly irritating when these people go, well, it's lives on the line. It's great. That's great. That very much persuades me to your side. The idea that there are lives on the line. Yes, absolutely. But emotions aside, I still don't care because I'm still here. And of course, people will go, well, if you can't handle that, then don't follow me. That's a real smart marketing move, asshole. Tell people not to follow you. Genius. I might just do that, and then what will happen? You won't have your precious Twitter ass pats. People to... Whatever. It's all designed to make you miserable. There's a reason I don't care. I don't have Twitter. I barely use Discord at this point. Because Discord is the same fucking way. The night they popped up with the banner about, we're very committed to black people. Thank you for the virtue signal, but I'm just here to shit talk people. I don't care. Because I can't do anything. Nobody can do anything. I mean, of course, they can't do anything, just shouting into a void on Discord. Like I said, the legislative process can. But I don't care about that. I don't want to do that. It's not something that matters to me. Fine, call me a bad person, but I have a life to lead. I don't care. But these people think that everybody needs to care all the time. It's like, okay, that's fine. But, you're just digging your own grave as far as making other people miserable. Making everybody hate you, making everything you do fucking disappear into this void of vacuous political nonsense designed specifically to gain as many followers as possible. Like, there are so many times I've seen, somebody will make some viral post about some political issue, and then they'll be like, oh, hey, look, I guess this blew up. Here's my Snapchat. Here's my SoundCloud. You're an opportunist. You're an opportunist. You're just here for the fucking political... You're just here for the popularity. That's all you're here for. And that's fine. You can be a grifter, but admit that you're a grifter. Ultimately, the stuff that's happening right now, nobody's opinion on it matters. With the exception of the people who are actually out there making change happen. They're the people who are writing history. It's not somebody who's fucking posting on, A New House. Am I on top chat? Alright, well, now we're on live chat. I was on top chat because I just sort of... It's alright, New House. I'm just sort of screwing around with concepts right now. think that should be good. I think. It takes me a little while to get back into the mindset, I guess, of mapping, but things are moving kind of smoothly now. I mean, what did you say? I mean, yeah. I mean, there's not much I could say about DeviantArt, because it's just DeviantArt. I was thinking that this section would be kind of this, like, sewer area new house. And you'd have this watery kind of bit going through, and I guess I should place down some enemies. I'm just going to... This obviously isn't going to be the end of this scene right here, but since... How long have we been going? About 2.5 hours. Let's just get this into the engine. Let's just get this into the engine and... compile it, and I'll show you how this shapes up to be something. So we just have the geometry right here, and like I said, I'm just walling it off right now because it kind of doesn't matter. That should be good. So since I just built something, I'll leak test it, make sure that there's no leaks. We're good. All right, normal compile time. Oh, I'm going hard. So I'll no target it real quick. I'll just no clip up to the spot where we were building. I will activate that little trippy area. There we go. Secret area. So doors open now. And as you can see, it's very dark. So we're going to turn Fulbright on. That makes it ignore the light maps, and of course it makes everything very ugly, but at least you can get an idea of scale and things. And you can tell this is exactly the same as if you didn't run light. So this is what we got, this kind of area down. Ooh. 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 Okay, I guess we just hit... I've had this glitch before. The only solution really is to move the map in the editor. This is one of those weird things I can't really explain. There is background music going. New House has an entire soundtrack in development for Blue App. Well, I guess we gotta fix that then real quick. So I'll just... I guess we'll just move everything way the fuck back. I mean, that should be perfectly fine. Anyway, recompile. Run again. What? Oh, I compiled without clip brushes. I was like, what is going on here? That's weird. Why can't I walk on the side of the puzzle box? That's fine. Alright, so let's get Fulbright back on so I can show you guys. We'll be adding lighting in a moment. Ooh, I guess I have to fix some of this. I swear I had some of this texturing stuff. This wasn't an issue before. Alright, well I guess I have that to fix too. Either way. Ooh, okay, alright, I know exactly what happened. Whoops, my bad. I moved it without texture lock being on. Let me fix that real quick. Sorry, I know exactly what happened. I don't have texture lock on, which is like if you look at me moving around, you see how the textures aren't moving? That's normally what you want because it means I don't have to worry about texture alignment when I'm building. I can just sort of make it happen kind of naturally, but it does mean that everything kind of gets misaligned and fucking weird. So let me make sure that things are still aligned all right. Nudge it over that way. Was that like... I guess that was like that before? I don't remember. Strange. Everything else alright? I would hope so. Trying to think of anything else where the texture alignment would be kind of... I guess this is alright. Like I said, I don't really care for worrying about like texture alignment and stuff. I just tend to build on the grid, and that makes all the difference. So... let me keep moving it over a little bit, just in case. Yeah, of course, yeah, sure. Okay. That should be alright. Everything's looking... oh. Was that like that before? I swear I split it on... okay. There we go. You guys can post whatever you want. I don't care. I should probably remember to turn the clip brushes back on. One again. From the level. What? Where are the clip brushes? What the fuck? Where are the clip brushes? Oh! Damn it. I fucked myself again. I moved everything without moving the clip brushes too. Whoops. Be alright, I think. Yeah, I read that before. Slip in that chat up there. I don't know. I think a lot of people see Neopets as a meme, but I legitimately like it. I think Cabby and I would have bonded over it once upon a time. And, I mean, we still have, but, like, it would have been our thing together, I guess. Anyway, so let me... no! Get out of here with your emoji nonsense. Yeah, that was the intention of it. Thank you for finally noticing. Anyway, so let's get Fulbright back on, so that way we can actually, you know, get this going. So, scale looks good, bridge is good. Of course, this is not going to be, like, that much going on down here. At least you could pass under the bridge. So, scale looks fairly good. We should have, like, an ogre or something right here. Maybe the Death Knights. Yeah, this should be alright. Man, it really fucked with some of the normals. Oh well, whatever. It'll be alright. Alright, so let's continue then. So, we've gotten that down. We've gotten the geometry down. Now I sort of start to work on lighting. So, I guess, I was talking to Newhouse about prefabs before. I don't rely on them too much, but I do occasionally like to make use of them, like these torches right here. So, like, for example, I'll probably, because it's not as important an area, as you can see, I have these kind of big torches that I have as actual brushes. I'll have those, I think, in the actual sewer area, but for right now, for right here, I think I'll just have them be torches on the wall, and I'll just have them kind of lighting the way. And I know this is going to be DCB's favorite part, because he's been talking a lot about how great the lighting is in Quake, and I wholeheartedly agree. One of the first things I really experimented with in Quake was these deep, dark shadows, and given that Newhouse is playing that exact sort of thing, I figured, you know, let's just continue with that, and that's why I'm not using any bounce, for example, because bounce would have taken some of those deep, dark shadows away. I don't care too much about lighting this part, because eventually there will be light seeping in from this area. And then for the actual sewer area itself, I'll take those brush torches and I'll actually place them so that's good. And of course, sort of the nice thing about lighting practically, it's a glorious sight to behold. But if you're lighting practically, like you should be doing, you shouldn't just be placing lights everywhere. You should be lighting a little bit more practically, which means you just sort of place lights where they'll be in the scene where it makes sense, like where you would actually expect there to be lights. And then if you really need lighting to be visible, you can sort of place lights just kind of up in the air, which is something that I did in... Hold up. So that looks good. What the fuck is going on here? Of course, everybody is just loving the fact that they can have whatever the hell they want to show on stream, on my stream. Like you can see in this big area, I do have some disembodied lights, but I don't really want that right now. So we're just going to place a couple of lights around where it makes sense, where you'd expect sort of practical lights to be, and then we will compile the result and see how it looks. Alright. No target. Yeah, keep the degeneracy out of my chat, please. Thanks. And, you know, for flavor, let's even grab this. Oops. Damn. I'm telling you, this area is so disorienting. So there we go. We got a torch. We got torches sort of leading the way. Oh, Jesus Christ. Whoops. Rip. These might be a little bright. I might tune these down a little bit. That's sort of the nice thing about the lights in Quake, is that you can actually lower the brightness value of them. Actually, I'm curious. Does that block light? I don't think it does. It doesn't by default. It's fine, DCV. Fucking weirdos want to be weirdos. Yeah, that doesn't block light. So I'm going to... Thankfully, there is a model that you can... Or there is a key value that you can set that I have now forgotten because the thing that I was using it on is now out of the map. I guess we're going to go check on... Whoops. Here we go, light. So key value amounts. Shadow. It's underscore shadow. I really gotta put out my updated FGDs. Alright, let's see how that looks. And yeah, you do have to compile after every single change you make. So a lot of people would either just not compile fully, or they would there it is. Or they would just go ahead and wait until they made a lot of changes to compile, because compiling used to be a huge deal. It used to take a lot of time. Yeah, I think this scene is kind of bright. I think what I'm gonna do... Yeah, those are further apart, so... What I'll do is I'll get rid of these. I'll add... Not a key. What's wrong with you? Point light. Add one right here. Dim it. Move this over here. Place this a little inward. Let's try that out. Ooh. That's kind of spooky. I still might place another light around here just to get the stairs not totally dark. Alright. I don't like the underwater bit, the actual sewer area. I don't like that being dark either. So what I might do is, especially since the water's full bright, I think I'm gonna drop lights into here. Not so it's especially obvious. I don't want the under of the bridge to be fucking glowing. Okay. Alright, enough. Enough of that. So, see how that looks. I might drop it even further. I'm going to be perfectly honest, I'm regretting having fucking IRC open at the same time. So... I think I'm going to dim those lights then. Because I think... I like it to be a little bit darker down there, but not totally. And we'll have one up there, because I do like that darkness to it, but I don't want it to be completely dark, so that should be good. Yeah, I'm not really sure about that. I'm likely going to keep working on this area. I'm not terribly sure about all that. Whoops, that's not the ones I meant to change. Here. Alright. And then afterwards we'll just populate it with enemies and we'll call it there, because as of right now I don't really want to risk another stream dropout. I don't know. I think I've gotten the point across. I think I've explained how all this works and you guys get to see the fun of it. And of course, you know, talking politics and stuff has been great. Of course, that will actually be another one of these one of these grates. That'll be another one of those. And something I actually find really interesting about Quake is that the way that the game grows hulls, as it's called. If you look in the compile log, what you'll see is there's actually like this says hole 0. And let's see if it can find a hole 1 or a hole 2. Processing hole 1 and hole 2. So, what that means is that there's actually multiple hulls in the compile process that the game will use to determine collision. Now, of course, you have hole 0, which I believe hole 0 is the visual hull. So when the game is processing all of the stuff you actually see, that's hole 0. However, the normal, of course, this is way too fine to judge collision against. And of course, collision in physics would have been something that really caused computers of the day to stutter. So what it did instead was they generated a second hull. And that's actually a much more simplified one that gets used for collisions. However, there's also hole 2, that third hole. And what that is shamblers are so big that they still cannot be checked with any kind of efficiency against the first collision hole. So the game actually generates another one specifically just for them, so that way, you know, it's not trying to check like in a smaller space that a shambler can't get through. It's not trying to check that, you know. It's just kind of, it doesn't even bother. So there's actually multiple collision hulls that the game has to process. And my point for bringing that up is that if there's a spot that a player can't fit through, or there's a spot that a shambler can't fit through, it doesn't actually generate it in the hull whatsoever. So watch this. You see how I can't get through these bars? If I teleport in here, it puts me back. Because the actual collision hull ends at these bars, because that's why they call it growing the hull, because it literally blooms outward as it's generating it. But in the case of here, because I can't fit through it, it doesn't generate a hull. This is actually totally non-solid. Of course, it's solid to, projectiles and whatever. It'll render the pixels, but it can't detect what the player is doing back here, because there's just no hull. So it'll say that's empty space, and it'll be the exact same as if you teleported out of the map. It'll be like, oh, you're stuck. Let me teleport you back in. I don't know if that's a Mark V edition. I'm using Mark V. I don't use Quake Spasm. I use Mark V. I don't know if that's a Mark V edition or if that was in the original game. I don't remember. Might have been in the original. Either way. So that's why you can't actually teleport through here. But I think the last thing to do is to actually put some gameplay in here. So how long have we been going? Coming up on like 2:40 or so because of my 5 minutes where I was live, but not really. So I think Newhouse suggested that the Death Knights would be good in here. I agree. So one cool thing that's actually kind of neat about Quake is that they actually have a way to make monsters patrol. So you see this ogre. If I were to load the game back up and show you, this ogre would actually walk back and forth between these two paths. And that's because you can actually, these path corners, which are the exact same path corners that you use for trains, can also be used to determine the walking paths of enemies. So you can make them patrol rather than just standing around in the editor. Alright, I will do that. I think I'll put a Void Knight right here. But let's put in some Death Knights real quick. Yeah, I'll see what they do. Like I said, I just kind of hesitated because some of the keys that I use are not in the blue FGD. I might have to edit that myself. I'm a little rusty on FGD editing. That's not a huge deal. I can live with that. I hate that about Trench Broom. I'll try to grab something and I'll grab something totally different. Anyway, so I have a naming scheme. If any of you ever open up any of my levels, I have a naming scheme for different entities. Well, like the Eric W. stuff, for example. I mean, granted, that's not in this FGD either, but stuff like _shadow isn't in there, and I don't know. If I do make any changes, I'll send the FGD back to you, and you can sort of make a decision about it. But anyway, so the way that you make entities interact in Quake is through a target/target name system. So target name is the name of the entity itself, and target is what it is trying to affect. Fireworks! It's not even dark out. Sweet. Anyway, so this path corner. So let me see what paths I have. So like I say, I have a naming scheme for all these. So P whatever, and then a number, those are my path corners. It's sort of a take on how id used to do their entity naming. It's just the most efficient way I can think of doing it. So anyway, so we start at P19. So this is going to target P20, and this is named P19. This is P20, so we'll put P20 in the target name, and you can see that it drew this line between them because now those entities are connected. And it's going to target P19 because we want them to walk back and forth. And as you can, I don't know if you'll be able to tell that, but the line grew a little bit thicker and more vibrant. That's because there's two lines. And then, to make this this Death Knight walk back and forth, you just have it target P20. So you can see that there's a line. Now, if I build, you'll see that he'll be walking back and forth. So you can see this ogre is walking back and forth. This knight will also be walking back and forth. And potentially, depending on the timing of the player, he might actually catch him as he's walking out of the dark, which is just really neat. I think there's a lot of potential for enemies to be, hiding in the dark, sort of, And presumably the player will have cleared out and grabbed the shotgun up there. If they haven't, then they're in for kind of a world of pain. But to be perfectly honest, I might just put a second shotgun down here. That's not a bad idea, actually. I mean, you might as well. And then it doesn't matter if you already grab both of them, because that'll just be like a little ammo boost. Alright, so I'm just going to drag... I'm going to drag a second shotgun down there. Sweet. So we have a shotgun on the bridge. Nice. And we can also have enemies walking a little bit more of a complex path. Doesn't have to just be back and forth. So let's take this. Actually, I don't know if I necessarily want him in here. I'll have him a little bit more out towards the end of the hallway, and we'll actually have three different path corners. So we'll have a path corner here for where he stops. We'll have a path corner for here, this part of the hallway. So he will walk to there. And to make sure he doesn't bump into the walls or anything, we'll have... No, I selected the path corner, asshole. Thank you. You guys are going to need to give me a moment. I'll be right back. Hold on. Sorry about that. I got called away. I was kind of hoping I got called away just so I could play that. Alright, so what was I doing? Alright. So this will be P21. Now it's time for our sponsor. Alright. P22 and then P23. I think actually technically I might need... I guess I would actually need 4 of them. Whoops. This will be P24. And then P24 goes back to P21. 21, P22. P22 goes to P23, and then P23 goes to P24. So he'll be patrolling back and forth through there. And then this is what, 21. Targeting P21. Sweet. So New House wants me to test the Void Knight, so I should probably do that. Oops. And I'm tempted. Whoops. I meant to copy that. Can you imagine fucking Kyle Drake? Like, alright, I'm gonna pay you. And then I just come on and I'm like, yeah, so this site's fucking Garbitron. I wouldn't recommend it, but thanks for the money. neocities.com.org. I don't remember. It's something like that. And then I'll just rename this to Void Knight. I think that's what that's called, right? Your site sucks, thanks for the money. Whatever works, man. Whatever works, man. I don't know what this is. Some fucking nonsense. Actually, hold up. I'm gonna copy that because I'm gonna need that for a moment. Quake. Blue. FGD. Yes! Alright, so that is the name of it. Cool. Sweet. Really? Ah, man. What nonsense. Okay. So that'll be that then. And that means I'm actually going to need to run this using Blue App rather than launching it through just id1, which is the default game. So let me manage my engines real quick. Preferences. I'll just need to set a new engine. Alright, sweet. Alright, set that. We're going to compile it. Nope, not run. Compile. What am I doing? And then you add plus game to the command line stuff. And that'll launch it using Blue App rather than standard id1 stuff. It's also probably why it's going to take longer. Hello? Hello? Okay. What's going on here? Is that not how you run it? Yeah, I mean, that works. That works. I'm just trying to, like... Whatever, we'll run it from that. And I guess we're just going to play through the level real quick. Again. Might as well. Okay. Got him. Okay, good. So over here. Surprised the Fiend didn't leap that time. That's the thing. There is some degree of unpredictability to monster setups in this game, so you kind of have to just kind of hope for the best. There we go. Oh, there he is. There he is. Let me go grab that shotgun real quick, especially since I'm going to need an ammo refill. Oh, fuck, he aggroed. I was going to show you the walking path of him, but nope, guess not. Alright, let's see this Void Knight in action, because I actually have not seen this guy in action yet. Whoa, holy fuck. That's kind of neat. So yeah, I guess I gotta go play with an FGD or something a little bit later. And that's the entity definition file. Trench Broom supports 2 different kinds, but FGDs are kind of the nicer ones. So yeah, I guess there we go, right? I still have to beef up enemy encounters in this area. The whole thing is that I kind of want the player to run out and just immediately get ambushed. But I guess that'll have to wait, won't it? How long have we been going? Yeah, it's probably a good time to wrap it up, isn't it? I mean, we built something or another. I'll still have to refine this area a bunch and keep working on it, but, you know. I did accomplish what I set out to do. I did accomplish my goal. We built something on stream. I explained the process. I get to bitch about these fucking lockdowns. And people decided to spam fucking Vor or whatever the fuck. I'm still good on that part, but hey, you know, whatever gets you off, I guess. Just not in my chat, please. Ooh, editing live on camera. You're absolutely not supposed to do this. Ooh, spooky. Whatever, it's fine. Oh shit. Whoops. I'm sure that's perfectly fine. Yeah, that'll do. Who cares? Whatever, it's fine. Yeah, I'm a little bit dehydrated. I actually, while the stream was down, turned my AC on because God, it got hot in here. I need to shave too. Yeah, I don't really know if there's much else to say. Thanks for embarking on this voyage with me, lads. This was, I mean, I basically guaranteed that every stream from this point out is going to at least be kind of interesting, because I don't do it as often as I used to, you know. Yeah. There should be one more in the future at the very least. Depends on what I can get going using like a remote desktop thing. I was thinking to actually stream something from the eMachines box like we were talking about, but I'll have to play with it. Worst case scenario, I'll just use an XPVM or something that I've got lying around. But yeah, old websites. We're going to be digging through weird shit. Just you and me. Well, me and 8 other people. How many people are still watching? We have 7 concurrent viewers. Cool. Yeah. I'm so bad at ending streams. That's alright, though. Thanks for popping in this Saturday, guys. Again, happy freedom, unless you're cabby, in which case, happy Saturday, my love. And for old time's sake, fuck off.